right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Metro Board activities for November 6th. Thank you for joining us. Before we begin, I'll ask our Chief Safety and Readiness Officer, Jamie Johnson, to provide today's safety contact.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the board. Metrobus is a huge bus network made more efficient and effective since the Better Bus launch in June this year. 125 routes, 7,500 bus stops, and over 1,400 buses. But providing a safe and accessible and efficient system to this wide range of passengers is an absolute priority for us, and there are risks in taking the bus. 2/3 of slips, trips, and falls on Metrobus occur during boarding or alighting, or because of unexpected movement on the bus. So we've just got some guidance for our customers. Firstly, when boarding the bus, wait at the bus stop with a sufficient distance away from the curb to allow the bus to pull up to the curb and for the doors to open. All buses kneel or lower to make it easier to get on and off the bus. If you have difficulty stepping on or off the bus, please tell the Metrobus operator. When riding the bus, remain in your seat or hold on to the bus straps, poles, or handrails anytime the bus is in motion. And then when exiting the bus, stand behind the yellow line and away from rear doors while waiting to exit. Ask the Metrobus operator to kneel the bus, lower it if you need assistance when leaving the bus. Report any safety concerns to the bus operator or by calling Metro Customer Relations at 202-637-1328. Many thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's Metro Board activities and to this meeting of the Board's Executive Committee. Since this is our first public meeting of the day, I'll ask Ms. Ellison, our Chief Board Affairs Officer, to call the roll. And we'll note that we're joined today by some of our alternate board members virtually as well as in person for the two training items on our agenda.
Thank you. Chair Santos?
Present.
Vice Chair Smedberg?
Present.
Vice Chair McAndrew?
Present.
Alternate Director Rye?
Present.
Director Lowe?
Present.
Director Elkhorn?
Here.
Director Jarvis?
Present.
Director Worth?
Present.
Alternate Director Aguirre?
Here.
Alternate Director Goldman?
Present.
Madam Chair, you have quorum.
Great. We have today's agenda in front of us for approval. Are there any objections by members of the committee to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as presented. Now to the approval of the minutes. We have minutes from our September 25th meeting and executive sessions of September 25 and October 7 before us for approval. Are there any objections to the minutes as presented?
Yeah, just one. I sent in an email correction.
Yeah, and we corrected that this morning.
Fantastic.
Hearing none, we'll consider the minutes, or hearing one that has been corrected, we'll consider the minutes approved as presented. Okay, so today our meeting is a little bit different in that we have the board's two annual training sessions on the agenda. Because these trainings are required for all board members, we're joined by several of our alternate directors at today's meeting. And the first session today will focus on board members' ethical responsibilities. The board's code of ethics requires that each member receive ethics training annually, and today's session fulfills that requirement. It also gives board members the opportunity to ask any questions they may have of the board's ethics officer, Lori Hand. I'd also like to take this opportunity to publicly welcome, it's true, Ms. Hand, who took over as the board ethics officer this past spring, although many of us have met you before. And then our second training session covers internal controls with a focus on board's roles and responsibilities to ensure robust oversight. I guess Liz will be coming. She's online, okay. And Paula Cook, our Director of Risk Advisory Services, will be conducting today's training. Following these trainings, the alternate directors will step away from the dais and will no longer participate in today's board activities. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to Ms. Hand to begin the board's annual ethics training.
Oh, now it's on. Now you can really hear me. Okay. Good morning. I'm Lori Hand. I'm here today to provide your annual ethics training. On the agenda today is a discussion of your fiduciary duties, conflicts of interest, gifts, and your requirements regarding disclosures. So the first issue is, to whom do you owe fiduciary duties? This all comes from the compact. WMATA is an instrumentality and agency of each of the signatory parties. and a body corporate in politic. That's from the Compact Article 3, Section 4. As a result, board members owe fiduciary duties to WMATA and to their respective jurisdiction. That's from the Code of Ethics, Article 2, which is an unusual situation to be in, but that's where we are. Fiduciary duties include your duty of loyalty, the duty of care, duty of confidentiality, and the duty to avoid conflicts of interest. The definition of the duty of loyalty is that you should act in the best interest of WMATA and of your jurisdiction in good faith and do so objectively and independently. An example of that is that your action should not be in the interest of yourself, another person, or another organization. The duty of care is to act with the appropriate attention and be fully apprised of all reasonable information. An example of that is you should attend board meetings when you're able, review board materials, ask questions, and gather information to make an informed decision. The duty of confidentiality includes your duty to keep confidential all non-public information learned through board service. Disclosure to third parties or to your jurisdiction could result in statutory violations such as privacy laws, or could involve the loss of the attorney-client privilege between the board and its attorneys. The duty to avoid conflicts of interest includes your duty to avoid any action that would diminish the public's confidence in the integrity of the board or of WMATA. You shouldn't use a board position or for favored treatment of any person or entity, using your board position for personal gain, or soliciting or accepting gifts, money, or other things of value in connection with board member service. So what is a conflict of interest? This is probably the duty that arises the most. A conflict of interest could compromise board members' ability to perform their duties fairly and objectively. A board member's substantial interest in or duty to an interested party, which includes WMATA vendors or contractors, could create a potential conflict. So how do we resolve conflicts of interest when they arise? One action is recusal. That means removing the board member recuses themselves from that particular issue, doesn't participate in it at all. So there's no approval required for recusal, but the board member can't participate in the board action if they recuse themselves from it. And another way to resolve a conflict of interest is to do a declaration in lieu of recusal. And that requires ethics officer recommendation and also board approval. If those hurdles are passed, then the board member can participate in that particular action. Part of conflicts of interest involves receipt of gifts. So there's a general rule against soliciting or accepting gifts from a prohibited source. A prohibited source includes anything that's because of the board member's position. Limited exceptions allow accepting certain gifts. You can find those exceptions in Appendix 1 to the Code of Ethics, and also includes household members' receipts of gifts. So the main thing to remember about gifts is if you receive a gift of any kind, you should submit a disclosure, and we'll put that in your ethics file to make sure we are aware of it. So as I mentioned, there are some disclosures that board members are obligated to submit. One is your annual disclosure statement, which you have all submitted this year. That's an annual requirement. There's also a continuing disclosure obligation. So if something that you've put on your annual disclosure changes during the year, for example, your spouse or you obtain different employment, you would need to update your annual disclosure statement. And also the gift disclosure. So if you receive a gift, you should submit a disclosure as soon thereafter as possible. So I'm just going to go through a couple of scenarios. This is a question I just kind of addressed before, but when I submitted my disclosure, my spouse was a partner at a law firm. She's since left that firm and started her own practice. Do I need to update my disclosure? So the answer to that question is yes. I see you shaking heads yes. So yes, you should update your disclosure so that we can make sure that you're protected from any accusation that you've acted improperly. The second scenario is a WMATA vendor has invited me to attend a charity gala. The vendor purchased a table and the cost per ticket is $400. May I attend the charity gala? So that comes up more frequently than you would think. So the answer is you can always attend the gala, but we don't want a Metro contractor paying for your seat at that gala. So there's ways to handle it. You can pay for it yourself, or if there's a Metro award or some other Metro purpose, it's possible that Metro could possibly pay for your attendance at the gala. Okay, so now best practices are always disclose, disclose, disclose. Review the code of ethics. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me and seek advice. You can call me, you can email me, however you want to contact me is fine. And then always disclose, disclose. It's better to disclose than not disclose. And now, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time, but you can also always contact me when it's not a board meeting. Okay, I'll turn. Okay.
All right. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Paula Cook. I am the Director of Risk and Business Advisory Services in Metro Audit and Compliance. It is my pleasure to be with the Executive Committee and other members of the board for our annual audit awareness training focused on the board's oversight role and responsibilities for internal control and risk management. In connection with our North Star, Your Metro, the way forward, the 4 goals and 10 objectives of Metro's strategic plan depends on strong internal controls and risk management practices to provide reasonable assurance of success in meeting our goals and objectives. While management maintains the control environment and employing appropriate risk management practices, the board has an oversight role and responsibility, and this will be the focus of today's training. Our agenda outlines the main training objectives for our discussion today. We will discuss the board's oversight role and responsibility for internal controls by examining guidance provided by the 5 components of the COSO sponsoring organizations or COSO internal control integrated framework and the board's oversight role and responsibilities for risk management following a brief overview of Metro's enterprise risk management program. To begin our discussion, a strong internal control environment begins with the organization's tone at the top, set by the board and senior management. Clear expectations for internal control and risk management enables the board to provide oversight, guidance, and accountability. When objectives are well-defined, risk can be identified and controls designed to mitigate them. Properly implemented internal controls provide reasonable assurance that objectives will be achieved. The COSO internal control framework, widely recognized in the private sector, defines 5 components: control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication, and monitoring activities. These components must work together for an effective internal control system, and they provide guidance on the board's roles and responsibilities. The COSO framework also serves as a basis for federal standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States, also called the Green Book, that helps Metro comply with internal control requirements of the Uniform Guidance 2 CFR Section 200 from the Federal Office of Management and Budget and the FTA Circular 5010.1F on awards management. We will now briefly outline the board's key oversight responsibilities for each component, which define its role in internal controls. Component 1, control environment, is the foundation for all other components of internal control, providing discipline, process, and structure established by the board and senior management. The standards set the basis for implementing internal controls across the organization. The board and senior management establish the tone at the top regarding the importance of internal control and expected standards of conduct. The internal control framework offers the following board oversight responsibilities based on this component. As you think about the specific responsibilities noted under this component, establishing oversight structure, integrity, and ethical values, as the board received training today, and maintaining the accountability structure and others as shown. I'm sure you would agree these are the responsibilities of the board. Component 2, risk assessment, covers the identification and analysis of relevant risks to the achievement of an organization's objectives and forms the basis of how risks should be managed. A precondition to risk assessment is the establishment of clearly defined objectives at different levels within an organization that enables the identification of risk. The risk assessment component also requires management to consider the impact of possible changes given internal and external factors. As you think about the specific responsibilities noted under this component, I'm sure you would also agree that these are responsibilities of the board, discussing risks to the achievement of objectives, evaluating potential impact of significant changes, and others listed here. Our activities the board clearly performs through its various board level committees, currently the Executive Committee, the Finance and Capital Committee, and the Safety and Operations Committee. Component 3, control activities, are the policies and procedures which help ensure that management directives are carried out and that necessary actions are taken to address risks to the achievement of the organization's objectives. Control activities should be performed at various stages and levels within the organization and could take various forms as discussed before. Example, preventative or detective controls, manual or automated controls. A strong control environment will include a good range of activities aligned to risk and underlying business processes. The internal control framework offers the following board oversight responsibilities based on this component. As we think about the specific responsibilities noted under this component, providing oversight to management in the development of control activities and making specific inquiries regarding the selection and deployment of control activities in significant risk areas. These are clearly activities the board already performs and should, as it is part of its oversight responsibilities. Component 4, information and communication, focuses on identifying, capturing, and sharing relevant data in a timely, usable format so employees can fulfill their responsibilities. It covers how information flows downward, upward, and across the organization and includes external communication. Employees are expected to receive clear messaging from senior management, and the component ensures both inbound and outbound external information supports business needs. The internal control framework offers the following board oversight responsibilities based on this component. As we think through the specific responsibilities noted under this component, communicating at the top, obtaining and analyzing information related to the achievement of goals, reviewing disclosures, allowing for and addressing upward communication. I am sure you would agree that these are responsibilities of the board. Component 5, monitoring activities, ensures internal control remains effective through timely assessments by appropriate parties. This involves both ongoing and separate evaluations, which vary in scope and frequency based on risk. Findings must be reviewed and communicated to management and the board to support proper oversight. The internal control framework offers the following board oversight responsibilities based on this component. The Executive Committee is especially familiar with these responsibilities given the periodic discussions with Audit and Compliance and the Office of Inspector General and its responsibilities for review of related management responses and corrective actions. We cannot discuss oversight responsibilities for internal controls without recognizing the connection to risk. Since controls are designed to mitigate risks that could impact the achievement of objectives, let's now focus our attention to risk management, a related and important factor in achieving business objectives. The reality is that every entity, whether for-profit, not-for-profit, or governmental, exists to provide value for its stakeholders. All entities face risk in the pursuit of value. For Metro, this includes our mission of connecting people to possibilities, guided by our vision of becoming the region's trusted way to move more people safely and efficiently. Risk, by definition, is the possibility that events may impact the achievement of strategy and objectives positively or negatively. In today's complex, highly regulated environment, strong governance and sound practice are essential. Risk management plays a key role as we navigate uncertainty, challenges, and opportunities while striving to meet objectives and create stakeholder value. Building on the definition of enterprise risk management, also known as ERM, it is a process that helps organizations identify, assess, and manage risks that could disrupt mission and objective achievement. It also reflects the culture, capabilities, and practice integrated into strategy execution to manage risk across the organization. While internal controls respond to risk, risk management involves choosing the right response to reduce risk to an acceptable level beyond what controls alone can achieve. We previously discussed Metro's Enterprise Risk Management, ERM program with the committee. Today, we'll reaffirm management's primary role in managing risk and highlight our formal ERM program, which sets the standards, the processes, and accountability for consistently identifying, assessing, responding, and monitoring to significant risk across Metro. Risk and opportunities can arise at different levels, and the ERM program supports identification and assessment at the entity enterprise level, where risks have broad impact on Metro's mission, vision, strategies, and goals. At the process level, where risk stems from structured activities, supporting core business objectives, typically at the department or organizational level. Special focused areas where risks gain attention due to management concern, special interest, or special events. For example, like fraud risk or project risk or vendor risk. Identified risks are mapped to 6 functional areas, providing a composite view across the organization. For example, comparing risk in safety and security with those in business support services. Please note, the annual entity-level risk assessment is currently in progress with the Metro senior leadership team. The results reflecting the top-level watch list of risk will be presented at the Executive Risk Management Committee meeting on November the 12th, 2025. Ms. Elizabeth Sullivan, Metro Chief Risk and Audit Officer, will subsequently present these results to the board in early 2026. The Enterprise Risk Management Program organizes risk into 7 relevant risk categories to establish a common language and framework to view the aggregated risk assessment results. This approach helps stakeholders consistently identify, compare, and communicate potential risks, making it easier to understand how these risks could impact the achievement of objectives, and to prioritize mitigation strategies across the functional areas. Now that we've discussed management's primary responsibility for risk management through a structured and disciplined approach, we turn to the board's distinct responsibilities for risk management, which is closely tied to internal controls due to the interrelationship. The board provides oversight to ensure the organization's strategy aligns with its mission, vision, and values, while identifying and evaluating risks that could impact these objectives. As part of this role, the board encourages management to assess risk across all levels of the business objectives and to consider risk in relation to performance, striving to balance expected outcomes with the organization's risk appetite. As outlined here, the board oversees management's risk assessments related to achieving strategic objectives. It reviews and aligns strategy and risk appetite, ensuring they reflect the board's expectation. Risk appetite defines the level of risk the organization is willing to take and accept. The board also evaluates internal and external risk, monitoring how the organization manages change and innovation, and stays informed on significant and emerging risk along with management's responses. Ongoing engagement with management, auditors, and stakeholders helps assess awareness of risk, strategies, and controls amid evolving organizational and regulatory conditions. All right, as we conclude this training session, which reinforces the board's responsibilities for internal control and risk management, we want to reaffirm that Metro's management recognizes its primary role in managing risk. This includes monitoring internal risk as well as engaging in discussions with our transit peers on emerging issues. I would like to close by highlighting a few key points from today's session. The board is responsible for overseeing risk and internal controls by reviewing and challenging management strategy, risk appetite, and alignment with Metro's mission, vision, and values, while also commissioning control reviews. In this role, the board assesses the impact of change, engages management with targeted inquiries, sets the tone at the top, analyzes key information, and monitoring ongoing activities. Management retains primary responsibility for risk and internal controls, and ongoing communication between the board and management ensures transparency and effective oversight. Strong risk management and internal controls are vital to Metro's success, protecting operations and supporting strategic goals. With that, Madam Chair and the board members, this concludes the training session. We would be happy to answer questions, and Ms. Sullivan, Metro's Chief Risk and Audit Officer, has joined us. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of my fellow board members have questions? Please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Paula, what do you do a similarly tailored presentation to the SET team and staff?
SET team, pardon me?
The senior team here
Oh,
at Metro or department
yes.
heads, do you do a similar type?
A training
Yeah.
presentation. Liz, I'm not sure on the training presentation, but I know we have structured, scheduled meetings with our executive risk committee, our executive risk management committee, and that's comprised of our SET, our senior executive team, and we meet 4 times a year with them to discuss, ongoing risk and corrective action plans and other important information. And then on 6 times a year, we meet with the Executive Risk Management Council, and the council is comprised of our senior leadership, selected members of our senior leadership team, and I think there's about 25 members. So we're, constantly engaged. Then at the process level, which that's the department I'm responsible for, is the Risk and Business Advisory Department. And so we are engaged with across the organization with our senior management team. That is our, primarily directors and above, and we are engaged at the process level and have built quite a portfolio of risk and controls.
Yeah, I mean, where the department was and under Liz's leadership and other people like yourself, I mean, it's really come a long, long way, obviously.
It
But,
has.
yeah.
And
But
we're very proud of it.
yeah, I know, it's been great.
Yes.
But people don't get like a refresh like this, do they?
At our
Yeah. I mean, I know you're doing the day-to-day stuff, but sometimes things, shouldn't be assumed.
Right, should be assumed, and thank you for that information. And it's not, as far as I recall, as formal of a presentation as this is, but and it could just be because of being familiar with it on a daily basis. It's always top of mind. Risk management for our organization and internal controls and just raising risk awareness across the organization.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Could you just
Sure.
clarify, just to refresh our memory, the difference in the roles and responsibilities between the IG's office, your team, and then the role of the auditors? Because as you're undoubtedly aware, we're about to, our auditors are completing their process.
Right, exactly. So our focus is we're management's audit and compliance. So we're engaged on a daily basis with our management and also the staff. And so the process is very similar. We perform audits. We do not perform investigations. So that belongs entirely to the Office of the Inspector General. But the process regarding audit is very similar. Now, the real difference is that we, in our internal audit and compliance department, we have the area that I'm responsible for, which is the enterprise risk program. So we're out there in front, making sure that management is aware of the risk, making sure management understands their controls, management writes their controls. In our department, I have 3 risk and business advisory managers, and they are facilitators. So they facilitate management, but management is very engaged. And again, we have a significant portfolio of identified and documented risk. And many times our Office of Inspector General will reach out to us and ask for a specific department's risk register. And that they would do that primarily or typically before an audit engagement. So it's a good collaboration, exchange of information within the boundaries.
A few more questions.
Sure.
So I know that there is a extensive detailed CAP list, corrective action plan
There
list
is.
that the board sometimes,
Yes.
that we receive, but
Yes.
it's in 5-point font. So I will confess that I do not read it in the level of detail that you all put a tremendous amount of work into. But one of the things that I've noticed, or other board members have noticed, is that there's often caps that are outstanding for an extended period. Who monitors the timing to close out caps? Because some of them, I know, in prior meetings, board members have asked about.
Yes, thank you for the question. So it's CAP management, the facilitation of CAP management falls in my area of responsibility. And so again, a staff of 3 risk and business advisory managers. So we are engaged in the aging of the corrective action plan. So we're engaged with management. We keep management aware. Management also has access to our database. But just that human touch, us reaching out to management, we began engaging with management when the corrective action plan starts reaching 90 days aged or 60 days. And then, just towards what we're working with management towards is the closure of that corrective action plan with appropriate evidence. That evidence is then solicited from our department, but handed over to our internal audit team or to the OIG for the validation of that evidence to ensure that the CAP is sufficiently implemented and that it is ready to close. And then we provide the reporting to our SET, senior executive team, as well as to the board on a monthly basis.
Thank you. One more thing, I'm going to turn it over to my fellow board member. So on the topic of caps, so again, just trying to understand where the accountability lies. So what happens if, say, there is an internal control, a gap, weakness in internal control that's been identified? Whose responsibility is it to close it? Is it your office? Does it defer to the senior executive team? Who's accountable?
Management. It's management of the area. The primary responsibility, the primary risk, the primary CAP owner, the primary control owner is always management. It's our organizational 2 managers who are the direct reports of our senior executive team. And that's who we work with as facilitators only in that capacity. And also we have a reporting responsibility as well to report out to the SET and to the board the status of those corrective action plans on a monthly basis.
Thank you, Director Lowe.
This is just a comment. It's not a question. At the beginning of DMV moves, one of the things that I had raised at that table was that one of the reasons why Metro has some really old caps is because there are conflicting caps. Because we don't have a regional approach to how we manage audits. And there's just, in general, we could all be working together better on, and including with federal partners on just on how risk is managed at Metro. I'm disappointed that DMV Moves is not moving the needle on this topic. That is like, I tried to put it on the table. It didn't like make it there and stick there. I think that we should just keep in mind every time that we as a board visit this topic, that we also need to be having an ongoing conversation with our appointing authorities about what our role is in managing risk at Metro and what their role is in using us, but also working through their own structures and processes about how they're managing risk at Metro. And there's, I think, room for improvement in this area, and that the symbol of some ancient and unresolvable cap is like a helpful reminder that there's still work to do in this area that management at Metro alone will never be able to resolve. So like, I think we should all also continually be looking for ways to be better partners and to do this better, because it will make Metro more efficient and deliver more value to the region.
I think that's a really good point. And if maybe we can ask Liz Sullivan and Paula that the next time that they come to the board, because I think it would be helpful to have a couple of examples. Director Lowe, for us to at least put on the record, right? And whether it's to remove from the cap list or asterisk it on the cap list, just to be clear that it's not somehow the fault of a team member. Liz, did you want to add something?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to just chime in here. If I may just quickly add to some of the comments Paula offered earlier on in response to the question about routine information given to management regarding internal controls. In addition to what she mentioned, we also have mandatory annual training for members of an organization with financial management control responsibilities. So they also, similar to the board, receive annual training on internal controls, which encompasses risk management as well. And in response to the comment about a jurisdictional audit, from what Dr. Lowe said, something that we would be willing to support. We have had caps in the past that have come out of different reviews that have occurred throughout with different focus areas from different jurisdictions, and we've had to respond to those caps. But that jurisdictional joint audit would be one that I think will make things more efficient, and we'll be happy to provide any information that might support a decision like that.
Director Smedberg?
Thank you. Hey, Liz, it's Paul. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir.
Thanks. Quick question. When you identify risks and you or gaps and you brief the senior team, do you also manage what your risk is in terms of messaging some of those things to the board directly?
So thank you for that question, Director Smedberg. Yes, we absolutely have a role to be objective in our approach to supporting the organization's need to manage risk. So in identifying risk to Metro, that is the goal. We consider Metro's mission, vision, core values, identify those risks that we believe are pertinent to the achievement of that. We look at it inwards and externally as well, thinking in terms of change. The primary goal is to ensure that the risks are identified and communicated appropriately. The concern is, are there limitations to what is communicated to the board? There are no such limitations. Obviously, there are things that would require input and action from different levels so that they may not rise to the level of board involvement, but to the extent that they require elevation to the board, that is something that's completely part of our practice and process. But obviously, there's a lot of layers internally that allows us to engage around the discussion of risk. And then, of course, the reporting and escalation is always a requirement of our process as well.
Thank you.
If I may, on this point, just to clarify, Liz, what are the criteria for communicating appropriately to the board?
Of course. So that is one of the things. Escalation would be the biggest thing here. Obviously, that's as the training session where we've communicated the board's role of oversight role and responsibility. There is a duty on the part of management to ensure that we provide the right information in the right form at the right time to the board to provide its oversight responsibility. So the criteria would be things that would require those responsible for governance and oversight to be aware. It could be anything. So, an example that might be helpful. We have identified risk appetite across our 7 categories of risk. As mentioned in the training session, those are the amount and types of risk that we're willing to accept in pursuit of our mission vision and aligned with our core values. When we find ourselves managing outside of what's acceptable, to the extent that it's not resolved or managed appropriately, that could something that gets reported to the board. There are no defined criteria that makes it a black and white reporting, other than the duty to report and escalate when appropriate. So there are times when information is escalated to the board given the circumstances, but the whole even if it's just to say this issue came up, it's been resolved, or it's been managed to an acceptable level, it's a watch item, it could be anything. We just have that duty to report. And of course, that could be an item that gets escalated when appropriate. That would also be the duty to report because it needs to be escalated. Another thing we could think about that might fall under what could be reported to the board would be when there is a disagreement, for example, in the sense of risk to the organization. If there is a ask on the part of the independent reviewers to take action on a matter and there's a disagreement internally, that could be something that could be escalated to the board. But that's, again, a typical thing if you're looking for some kind of things that would come to your attention as part of a natural process.
Thank you very much. And just to be clear, I think, as Director Smedberg said, we really appreciate you and your team's work. And so these are all just clarification of who's responsible for what, given the audit is ongoing in the IG's office and your team. So we appreciate the attention to detail. For me, I think this question of under what conditions, what is quote unquote appropriate to be presented to the board is a critical question. I know that in the last year, our board has been increasingly concerned, and again, this is not a negative comment on your office, increasingly concerned that we've been not informed in a timely manner about the severity of certain risks. So obviously this is to be continued in executive session, but appreciate very much the training and detail that you're providing today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Does anyone have any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. With no further business to come before the committee, we stand adjourned. I'd like to thank our alternate directors who participated in today's trainings for joining us. We'll take just a moment for folks to drop off, and then I'll turn the floor over to Director Alcorn to begin the Safety and Operations Committee meeting. Do we need a 1-minute bio break, or are we good? All good? Okay, go for it.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Santos. Welcome to today's Safety and Operations Committee meeting. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. The agenda is in front of us. Are there any objections by members of the committee to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as presented. We also have minutes. We have minutes of our October 9th meeting. Are there any objections or changes to the minutes as presented? Okay, hearing none, we'll consider the minutes approved as presented. So we do have today one item on the agenda for our committee meeting. And this is the quarterly service excellence report, covers first quarter fiscal year 2026. That's July through September of this year, for those of you that follow calendar years. I'm pleased to note that this report shows another quarter of continued strong performance by Metro in meeting its key performance indicators, or KPIs. So I'll turn the floor over to Acting Chief Planning and Performance Officer Allison Davis and Jordan Holt, Metro's Senior Director of Benchmarking and Global Performance. I love that title, by the way, for today's presentation. So Allison, I think, take it away.
All right, thank you, and good morning, and well, happy to be here. So I'm Allison Davis, Acting Executive Vice President of Planning and Performance, and here with my colleague Jordan Holt, Senior Director of Performance Benchmarking and Customer Research. And we're going to provide an update on service excellence, the first quarter of FY26 against a lot of the various key performance indicators. And this is really how we have over the past couple of years been activating the strategic transformation plan. And so Jordan's going to run through a lot of the various KPIs on safety and security, reliability, and convenience, and really help us understand how we're doing so far this year. So I'll turn it over to Jordan.
Great, thanks, Allison. Okay, so some highlights from this quarter. This is our first quarter running automatic train operations on all lines, our first quarter with a fully redesigned bus network. I'm excited to share the results on this. So first off, satisfaction and ridership remained strong, although satisfaction did drop slightly as customers kind of adapted to the new network, but it remains in line near target and in line with historical performance levels. Ridership continued to grow 5% year over year, driven by strong increases on rail. One thing I'm really excited about, and the main highlight, is that after kind of consistent levels of service reliability throughout fiscal year 25, we saw improvements on all modes this quarter. And crime continues to remain low, showing the best performance in 8 years. And finally, we are advancing projects to improve customer convenience by making it easier to pay for trips and navigate the system. Appendix A to the Strategic Transformation Plan includes a host of key performance indicators aligned with each goal. For service excellence, we have about 25 KPIs, and details on all these measures are included in the appendix. Every year, senior leadership gets together to set continuous improvement targets that push us towards the ambitious performance levels in the Strategic Transformation Plan. And when we look across all measures this quarter, about 2/3 are either already meeting those targets that we've set out or moving in that direction that we want. I'm going to cover a subset of measures in today's presentation, mainly focusing on the ones with the plus mark here. But if you have questions about any of them, the details are provided in the appendix, and I'm happy to answer questions. Starting with ridership, I mentioned that we saw continued growth year over year and quarter over quarter. September actually marked 54 months, almost 4.5 years of consecutive monthly year-over-year growth. For quarter one, this was really driven by an improvement in rail ridership. Rail, we saw strong growth across almost all periods and all days of the week. The strongest was on weekday commutes, bolstered by more federal workers returning to the office, but we also saw increases on Saturdays and Sundays as well. Ridership fell year over year. We were down about 7.5% this quarter compared to where we were this time last year. This is as the region adjusts to our new bus network, as well as potential other factors. We've seen the gap between last year and this year decrease kind of over the course of the quarter. For example, in September, we were down around 6%, a sign that people are kind of gradually learning the network and adjusting. Based on our peer performance or experience of our peers in this area, who other major networks that have launched bus network redesigns, takes about 12 to 18 months for ridership. They also experience generally a ridership drop initially, and then it takes about 12 to 18 months to see that growth. Overall, Metro Access ridership is up, but most of that increase was on Abilities Ride, which carries about 65% of all Metro Access trips. When we look at trips just on Metro Access branded or vehicles or dedicated service, ridership is down 15%. The portion of rail riders who use Tap Ride Go continues to increase with the highest usage on weekends and for special events, showing that this fare product is, or method of payment, sorry, is useful, particularly for infrequent riders. And finally, wanted to touch on some bus fare evasion results. We've seen a gradual improvement in bus fare evasion this quarter compared to where we were last year. But one of the most important things is that the TAP trips on bus have been growing, even as overall ridership has been decreasing. So passenger revenue was actually up 12%, for example, this September compared to where we were last September. This is a result of kind of our continued efforts for targeted enforcement, continued partnership with DC to encourage the Kids Ride Free program. We're going to be launching Tap Ride Go, hopefully in the next few weeks on bus, and offer a variety of fare payment methods to our customers. I'd like to highlight a few trends we're seeing on bus reliability in this first full quarter of our new network. The first is an improvement in on-time performance. As you see in the top graph, on-time performance on bus is very seasonal as traffic patterns are seasonal. We typically do see a drop in September as people come back from school, people come back from vacation, traffic increases. But what's exciting about this September, well, it did drop. It's the best September we've had in 4 years. This to me is a sign. One of the things we did in the bus network redesign is we leveraged our new scheduling software to really decrease unproductive hours of our drivers and reinvest that time in reliability improvements. So adding some running time and recovery time to make sure that our schedule is more reliable and we can more reliably deliver these trips. And this to me is a sign that that's working. We also missed fewer trips this quarter, but fell short of our target. This is because we're still short about 100 operators due to attrition and some lingering effects of the hiring freeze that was almost a year and a half ago in February of 2024. But we're targeting hiring and training over about 500 operators this year, and we're well on our way to doing that. Finally, we did see a small drop in customer satisfaction as customers adapt to the new network, although the 78% is really in line with kind of where we have been over the past year. As I mentioned, Q1 FY26 is also the first month or the first quarter where we have ATO running on all lines. And we did see a boost in on-time performance thanks to this kind of more consistent travel times between stations. 88.9% of customer trips were on time. This is a 1.5 point increase from where we were last quarter. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is. That's about 150,000 more trips on time every month compared to where we were last year. And the great news is that we saw improvement across almost all lines and all time periods, and that really does tell me that ATO is part of this, is behind this improvement. It's not, it's not isolated to a certain time of day or a certain line. Also, thanks to that ATO and kind of accompanying changes in our design speeds, almost every single trip is faster in Q1 than they were in Q4 FY25, so just 3 months ago. What's really interesting to me, though, is that customer perceptions of reliability are lagging. So we did see a decrease in customer satisfaction. And when we dig in, it's a small decrease in satisfaction with wait times and train travel times. We saw this on the Red Line, too. So we launched ATO on the Red Line in December. And that first quarter after, we saw also a similar decrease. And what this is that we're taking a data-driven approach to adjusting our schedules. So haven't fully adjusted our schedule to accommodate all of that travel time savings. And so trains are holding longer at stations as they get back on schedule. we have made those schedule changes on the red line, and we saw once we did that, the satisfaction and the perceptions of wait time and travel time kind of rebounded to where they were before. So we are making another schedule change in December on rail and anticipate that hopefully we'll see that same trend across the remaining lines. Metro Access reliability sustained the improvements that we saw in the latter half of last year, thanks to that continued partnership between Metro Access staff and our contractors. We added that one additional contractor in December and are continuing to see the positive results of that. We also continue to leverage Abilities Ride and thinking about how we schedule shared trips to manage demand and prevent those cascading delays. As a result, one of the key drivers of satisfaction is service reliability, and we see that it's been kind of stable over the past quarter. Part 1 crime, as I mentioned, is at an 8-year low. I think what's interesting about this is it's not just the crime rate that we've seen a decrease from fiscal year 25, and historically, we actually had fewer Part 1 crimes in this first quarter, fiscal year 26, compared to where we were last year at this time. So we had 92 fewer crimes. It's a 30% decrease. And that's consistent across bus, rail, parking lot. So it's consistent across our system. This is a sign that the work that our efforts to ensure our system are safe through kind of improving police visibility, investing in crisis intervention support, kind of faster response rates enabled by cameras, and our problem-oriented policing strategy, that they are continuing to have a positive impact. Want to close with a few of the projects we have underway to improve customer convenience that are coming online in the next 3 quarters. The first is Tap Ride Go. As I mentioned, we hope to launch on bus in the next few weeks. We also continue to make investments and improvements in Metro Pulse, the customer-facing app that provides key information about our next bus and train arrivals and help to navigate and plan trips. And then we're expanding and continuing our efforts to improve wayfinding, expanding some of the things that you've seen at L'Enfant Plaza to other stations, as well as installing more digital screens. And that concludes my presentation today. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, very good. Thank you for that excellent presentation. A lot of good information. A lot of good news, but even more so, I think the KPIs really are tracking critical pieces of the system elements, and gives us an opportunity not only to appreciate when we're meeting targets and things are running as they should or getting better, but also where things maybe aren't hitting our KPIs, and can really provide the opportunity to identify where additional attention's needed, or at least to find out if there's some other explanation. So thank you for doing that, particularly with the Better Bus Network implementation, and knowing that that often takes 12 to 18 months to be reflected in the statistics as folks adjust their travel schedules. So questions, comments? We'll start down here on the end. Dr. Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. The Part 1 crime key takeaway is wonderful, but Part 1 crimes are only like the absolute craziest, most hardcore crimes, right? Like the universe of crime is much bigger than that. Where are we on crime overall?
It's a great question, and we post all of this on WMATA.com. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but we can pull it up and get back to you on that.
Okay. One thing I did notice in the report that I didn't love to see was the trend in terms of assaults on Metro employees. Can we just spend a moment on that topic? Can we pull up, just for the benefit of everyone, where we were on that metric?
Yes. So we did not meet our target for transit worker assaults. This measure, again, is aligned to a definition of assault that's been established by the Federal Transit Agency or Federal Transit Administration that all transit agencies implement and report on. And the rate is scaled to the amount of service we provide. So it's scaled to the vehicle revenue miles. It's not scaled to ridership or anything like that. So we did see an increase in the rate. And when we look at kind of where these assaults are occurring, it's predominantly with our law enforcement officers. And we do see that that is kind of what is behind the increase of the rate.
Yeah, so it seems to me that that's not a function of, revenue miles, right? So much as it is policy and how we are deploying MTPD. I just personally, this is troubling. And I'd like to hear from MTPD leadership. This obviously doesn't have to happen right now. I just think we need to talk about the directionality on this and what the ROI to the bigger picture at Metro is, to be, because there are trade-offs, right? Like, this heading in the wrong direction is probably part of what has helped Part 1 crime head in the right direction, right? Like, I'd like to hear a little bit more about what the trade-offs are and what our level of confidence is that this is worth it. So just bookmarking for everyone that's a conversation that I think we need to get into, because this is, I'm extremely concerned by this.
Director, before we can move on, can I just follow up with a
Yeah,
question on that?
absolutely.
So in terms of our crisis intervention team members, I'm not sure if they show up in the assaults under what category, or because I know we've definitely ramped
They would be
up.
under other Metro employee.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think we should just, this is a good like, seeing what's happening in these KPIs this is a good moment to just pause and say, like, are the decisions that we're making delivering outcomes that are worth it? This covers Q1 of Metro's fiscal year, which is July, August, and September. So that means this period of time also covers when we've had a surge in other kinds of personnel available to support safety on Metro. And so my concern also is, like, are the improvements that we see in the Part 1 crime trend, can we sustain those if those extraordinary resources are not always available? And then also, given that those resources were available, why are transit worker assaults up so much, given that we have so much more help? I don't expect you to know the answers to these questions. I think these are questions that we need to ask and grapple with. And I think the chief is the right person to have this conversation with, and that we should put this on the agenda for an executive session discussion.
Yeah, I was going to suggest the same thing, perhaps in consultation with Chair Santos. We can make that happen. Let's do that.
This is just a topic that I care about really deeply, and I'm just seeking reassurance that the whole senior leadership team is thinking this through holistically.
Thank you very much. Let's, Mr. Roth.
No, I'm sorry, sir. Just wanted to address Dr. Lowe's very important point. I mean, certainly this is, of utmost importance, for us. I talk to Chief probably every day of the week about, the morale of the workforce and these types of incidents. Certainly, as we engage more in, fair enforcement and just policing in general, I think we would all agree is, kind of stepped up a little bit, in recent months. This is something that we are, certainly paying much better attention to, and certainly, would be, like to come back and share with you, some of the things Chief's team, does, and the support services we provide. Actually, I had the opportunity to visit our occupational health team and our employee assistance program team on Tuesday, and we have a specific counselor who's a retired New York City police officer who, is a counselor dedicated, to our police team, to address kind of the back end of not the issue you're addressing, but the care, of our folks who are engaged in these unfortunate incidents.
Yeah, and then I think also the vision for the independent review panel and for civilian oversight of MTPD was also that and the independent review panel also has representatives from other law enforcement bodies too. So it's not just people who know nothing about this job. The vision for that was supposed to be also that it's really not about X incident. Was it good or bad? But to identify lessons learned for MTPD, just about that, just to help everyone do better. And so I want to also include that piece in this conversation of just are we learning everything we can in order to, because I would rather see a world in which we can reduce crime, make Metro safer while also keeping our workforce as safe as possible.
Yeah, Chair Santos.
Relatedly, so I was just inquiring, it sounds like we'll invite the chief to come and talk to us and add when he does. I just don't know how this is, who rolls up to whom, but the crisis team, I see here there's a number of contacts, and I know there's some fantastic folks. We've spoken to them informally a bit. It would be helpful to as well understand what are the metrics we're tracking. So I have no idea what is 9,400 contacts relative. Is this more or less than previous years? Do they have enough resources? To your point about in some circumstances, I think that crisis personnel might be the more appropriate response to a situation. And I'm sure obviously people are well aware of that. And do we have the right mix and how do they work together? That'd be really good to know.
All right, thank you. Director Smedberg.
Thank you. Jordan, did I understand your comment about the red line, meaning automation is working too well? We're going too fast.
No, the red light, it's working great. The comment was more, there's often, so we launch automatic train operation and that makes our trips faster, right? It's more consistent and faster. And so we have to adjust our schedules, right?
But the other trains coming in to say Metro Center or Gallery Place and there's connections, they might be behind a little bit and they've got to catch up.
It's basically because they're running so fast, it's like they arrive at Metro Center a minute ahead of schedule, right? And so we have it hold a little longer at Metro Center so it doesn't catch up with the train ahead. Does that make sense?
Yep.
To keep that spacing.
Okay.
So once we adjust our schedules, that holding goes down. And so customers perceive that holding as a longer trip,
delay.
even though the data show that it's actually still faster, even though you're holding.
We have word, it's annoying.
Speed limit. It's also the speed limit thing.
Yeah.
It's just, we're all getting used to that.
And also I see Sarah behind you. People have really commented on the new signage too, by the way, just FYI, in positive ways. And people who I know travel here but don't use the system when they're here have also commented and noticed it. So, and I saw one yesterday about the construction, just the big line and the simple message. It was, that was good. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Yeah, the fact that we're having challenges with our trains running faster than scheduled, that's a really good problem to have. So, and I'm glad we're fixing it as well. Director McAndrew.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm going to go to slide 5, please. I think it's 5. I just want to maybe give lift to an item that maybe the data doesn't show great work, but I'll give kudos to the team and then ask kind of what we've learned and where we're going. But the last bullet, full bullet on the left-hand side, the bus fare evasion has fallen to 68%. While that seems high, It is significantly better than where we were, I think, just last December, which I think we were closer to 78, 80%. So a 10% drop in 6 months' time is noteworthy. And so I commend the team, and I recognize the team is much bigger. It's everybody driving the buses to the police force that's helping support. But 68%, a 10% drop is great. We had a roughly 20% fare evasion rate prior to COVID. And, due to various things, culture, et cetera, has changed, and we need to reorient the culture and educate and message to our partners that are riding and relying on our service that, fares should be paid. And if we do it the right way, fares will get paid and we'll have better service as a result, right? And so I think that is a very important data point that I just wanted to hone in on and say thank you. But I'd love to ask the question of, what have we learned in 6 months' time? What are the sticky points? And, how can we help support the team in terms of getting closer to, say, that lofty goal of 20%?
All right, thank you. Good question. And so I think you're right. We are definitely moving in the right direction. Is it where we want to be? No. But we are seeing not just the TAP trips going in the right direction, but we're also seeing that is translating to average fare for bus, right? So we're seeing from a revenue perspective improvements as well. We have MTPD is out enforcing fares, as you noted. And we did a lot of work with Kids Ride Free when the school year launched. We have also been doing, with Tap Ride Go launching later this month. So you'll start to see a lot of communications that we are now through MetroLift, through Senior Smart Trip, through Cash on Board, through Smart Trip, through Tap Ride Go. There's no excuse not to pay. And so we are really going to be leaning into a lot of that communications to push that message out. I think it is trickling in, but I think I'm excited that we're moving in the right direction. So
I think, as they say, it's crawl, walk, run. And so we're maybe hitting the walking phase, and before we know it, we're going to be running, and we're going to be back to where we need to be. So appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Any more questions? Thank you for flagging that, Director McAndrew. Do we have anything else? And do we have anyone online? I don't think we do. Okay. All right, good. So I believe, thank you very much for your presentation. I believe that is it for this committee. So with no more items before the committee, we stand adjourned, and I'll turn the floor back to Chair Santos.
Thank you. All right. In accordance with the bylaws, I, Valerie Santos, request that the Board of Directors convene an executive session to discuss the following matters pursuant to Article 2, Paragraph 9, subsections A, budgetary matters that may affect legal positions, WMATA contracts, or sensitive relationships with local jurisdictions or the federal government, and D, contractual or other matters involving confidential or proprietary concerns or the investment of public funds where discussion in public would potentially adversely affect the financial interests of WMATA. And lastly, E, audit matters and investigations to include, for example, audits of IT security matters and investigations to be referred for further criminal investigation or prosecution. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Lowe. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Good day.